Hi, it's Tony again, and we're back on the bench. And this evening, we're going to be doing a special small video on some more chrome cleaning. I've got another video on chrome cleaning and polishing, but I wanted to do another one here. So this is a Penn Model 60 Long Beach here that's completely disassembled, and as you can see, it's kind of a dirty, ugly reel. I mean, we've got rings that are just very dirty and corroded and pitted. All these pieces and parts here. We've got torpedo handles missing from handles and scars and scratches and all kinds of stuff. So I wanted to use this as a good example of what I like to do when it comes to cleaning up some of these pieces here. So the first thing I like to do is I like to get a container like this cut off milk jug here basically, and I'm just going to put a lot of these pieces and parts in here, including the Bakelite side plates and all that, because I want to clean up a bunch of this stuff here. And I'm just going to throw all these pieces and parts minus some of these screws probably, because I don't want to have to go digging for them. But the bridge assembly, the main gear, all these things, I just want to get all these pieces and parts in here basically. Throw that in there as well. And then the drag washers, I don't want those in there, but all these other pieces and parts should ultimately just go in here. We got a dog and a dog spring and pinion yoke springs and eccentric components and bushings, just all these things. And I'm kind of doing this separately just so you can see like what these pieces are like here basically, what kind of shape that they're in. All these screws I'm going to leave here and just for the time being. But what I like to do in a situation like this when it comes to just cleaning, whether it be chrome pieces or any other metal pieces or even the Bakelite pieces, I just like to do this. I'll take my WD-40 and I'm just going to rinse this down with some WD-40. This was a very, very dry reel. Very dry, not lubed up like ever, I'd say. So unfortunately, it's in pretty bad shape. But this is part of the restore process that we do, right? Is seeing what pieces and components we can reuse. And I haven't decided yet if I want to reassemble this reel in its entirety. If I do, I'm probably going to have to shop and buy a few different things, like some new bushings, and definitely get a new handle for it, which I do have some extras that'll fit this model that are stock handles. But I just want to get a bunch of this WD in there. I want to let it sit for a while. And when I say a while, I mean a few hours usually is really the best thing. Now, note, I don't find the WD-40 is always the best thing for breaking apart rust, or at least not deep rust, but it does loosen up the surface grit and some of that corrosion, and so that's why I like to use this. But what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit for a little while, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you some of the tactics that I like to do for cleaning up these chrome pieces in here, and maybe some of the other metal pieces as well, like the bridge and whatnot, so that you can kind of get a sense of what that cleaning is really about when it comes to reel restore. And so we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so we're back now, and I've given these pieces and parts some time, for that WD-40 to sink in. And now, I'm just going to kind of demonstrate what I like to do, basically. Also, I've got this little bridge shaft pin. You want to make sure that you don't lose that if you're getting into disassembling these. But I like to just take some steel wool, some really, really fine steel wool, like some number 4, and I like to basically leave that film of WD-40 on there, but I also don't mind just kind of hitting it up one more time. And then I'll take that steel wool, and you can see what shape this is in right now. It's very pitted, it's very corroded, so we're going to hit this with the steel wool here. I'm just going to go around the clock here, and we're going to just see what the results are of this and how this works. And I'm only going to do half. so that you can see one half the way that it came, and one half the way that it is after I'm done doing this, basically. So I'm just basically going from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, more or less, on here. Okay. And then I'm just going to take a microfiber towel to this here so that we can clean off all that excess scrub on there. So, you can be the judge, and it might be a little difficult to see in this light. It's definitely shinier on this side compared to this side. If you look at it in the right light, and we've definitely loosened up some rust and some corrosion, but unfortunately, yeah, there are blemishes here that we cannot really do a lot about. Now, that's not going to affect the functionality of the reel by any means, but it's definitely better than it was. So, I like to continue that process, basically, for all these chrome pieces here. Like we'll do it on here as well, on the star wheel. Is just do a little bit of scrubbing. But I find that the steel wool is probably some of the best stuff that you can use. Now, I've got some other tactics that I like to use in this, of course, when it comes to like the polishing and things like that. But the steel wool is kind of like the main staple, basically. So I want to point that out. But you can see that I mean, we've cleaned it up a little bit, and there's definitely some scars there that we're not going to be able to do anything about. But if you're just looking for functionality, then you can clean up a lot of these pieces and parts, no problem. And we'll do the spool. The spool here doesn't really look too bad, actually, all things considered. So we'll see how this is going to come out here. I think the spool is actually going to come out quite nicely. But this is a result of just basically not caring for your reel, and not rinsing your reel. And like if I ever use my reels in salt water, when I get them home, I go straight to the kitchen sink, and I fill up the kitchen sink with dish soap water, and hot water for that matter, and I let it soak in there for a good hour or two. And that's just kind of standard. And then depending on how much you use your reel, it should be given some regular maintenance at least once a year, if not more, depending on how much activity it actually sees. But yeah, I can tell right now that the spool is probably going to turn out okay, which is nice because spools are expensive, especially when they're these chromed kinds. This is actually, a lot of these pieces and parts are brass parts, like the rings and whatnot, but they've been chromed over, of course. So yeah, I mean, this spool is actually quite acceptable. It's got very little pitting damage. It's nice and shiny, and I haven't even gotten out the shining agents that I like to use. And so, having said that, a lot of you that have seen my other videos know that I like to use this turtle wax rubbing compound, and so this is part of what I like to do with Reel Restore. And I find that this product works really, really well, but there's lots of products available out there. But I like to take a blue non-scratch Scotch pad like this. And the non-scratch part is very, very important because you do not want to scratch the metal. You just want to polish it. You don't want to cut into it too much. And if you get the green scrubby pads, those will cut in. Those green scrubby pads definitely serve their purpose, but not for polishing chrome pieces and things like that. So I would recommend staying away from those. But as you can see, with a little bit of work here, just working your way around on the metal surface, you'll I think you'll find that there's some pretty good results that you can get from that kind of stuff. If you're looking to shine things up the best that you can. If you really want to cherry this out, then this isn't really the way to go, obviously. You need to replace these rings. You need to replace all these other components and pieces. That's a very costly thing, though, however, so you need to be aware of that, and also be aware that you may not be able to get a lot of pieces. But the spool, on the other hand, is quite shiny and very, very acceptable. So that's just one system that I like to use when it comes to cleaning up those chrome pieces. Now, when it comes to other things, like take the main gear here, for instance, we've got some rust damage here. This is definitely a spot where I like to use my steel wool and just get that steel wool working on there on the surface and break up that rust. And you're probably not going to be able to get it all off of there, and a lot of the time I'll just hose it down with some more WD-40 so it kind of cleans it off. WD-40 is really a good cleaner, and it's a good rust preventer, but you can see it's definitely better. It could use a little bit more attention, I suppose. So depending on how much work you're going to dump into it, will determine what kind of results you're getting, basically. But at a certain point, there's only so much that you can do about getting the scarring and the rust broken up. So, some people would just assume buy a whole different reel, which is totally fine. If you're in the business of doing vintage reel repair and restore, like what we're doing here, then these are some tactics that are quite helpful, I find. So it's definitely better than it was. There's certain things that are definitely going to remain there, but with a little bit of usage, a lot of this would probably smooth out and fade over time, I would imagine. But the gear itself is actually in great shape. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that gear. So, in a nutshell, that's basically what we're talking about here. I'll use this as one more example. Here is this bridge. And it's very, very dirty, obviously, so I'll just take a shop towel to this. But that's essentially the purpose of this video, is just to describe some of the cleaning techniques and some of the polishing techniques, some of the things that we do to break down some of these things. We got some signs of corrosion here on the surface, and this is nothing that a little steel wool won't deal with. Just rub that on the surface like so. But these are very, very basic household type products that you can get pretty much anywhere at the hardware stores or the local Walmarts and places like that. So, and then I like to take the steel wool to this shaft here, this bridge shaft as well, and clean that up the best that we can. So that, in a nutshell, is basically some of those cleaning tactics that I like to use when it comes to cleaning these pieces up, and this pretty much goes for all vintage pen reels that have these kinds of metals and these kinds of components. So, thanks again for watching. This is Tony with Back on the Bench. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.